He claimed that he had video footage. He also claimed to have the real Kim Porter memoir.
Because my next guest just testified before a federal grand jury. He says he was in possession of a trove of digital evidence from Diddy's freak-offs and parties.
It all started with whispers, a story so outrageous, so dripping with tabloid fuel, that it felt almost too wild to be true. Sean Diddy Combs, the man who once reigned as hip-hop royalty, is now sitting in a Brooklyn detention center, staring down the possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars. This isn't just another celebrity scandal. No, this is a high-stakes courtroom drama that has the potential to dismantle an empire, taking down one of the most recognizable figures in music history. The charges? A storm of accusations that paint a picture of power and privilege spiraling completely out of control.
You're hearing about all these videos with celebrities, not going to be part of the criminal case. And the
Cassie video.
The Cassie video is going to be part. Right. We're going to get to that in a minute with the jury. But what we did was, number one, we showed them the prosecution's case from one of our documentaries. And then we showed them the defense from the current documentary.
Diddy wasn't just a mogul. He was a symbol, a brand, a walking testament to the limitless potential of hustle and ambition. From the shimmering parties in the Hamptons where the A-list rubbed shoulders in all-white ensembles to the chart-topping hits that defined an era, he was untouchable. Or so it seemed. But behind the glitz and glamour prosecutors allege was a darker world, one meticulously hidden from public view, where manipulation and coercion reigned supreme. And now the facade is cracking wide open. The courtroom has become a theater for one of the most jaw-dropping legal battles in recent memory. Diddy, dressed not in the orange jumpsuit of his current predicament, but in carefully selected outfits approved by the judge, is fighting for his freedom. His legal team, a small army of high-profile attorneys, is spinning a narrative of misunderstood lifestyles and consensual excess, attempting to redefine the allegations as merely part of an unconventional private life. But the evidence prosecutors argue tells a different story. A story of control, intimidation, and a carefully orchestrated system designed to keep people silent. And then there's the video. The now infamous footage of Diddy and his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura, captured by hotel surveillance cameras in 2016, has become a central piece of this unfolding drama. In the grainy yet unmistakable clips, Diddy is seen chasing Cassie down a hallway, grabbing her, shoving her, and throwing her to the floor. The footage goes on to show him kicking her as she lies motionless, before dragging her by her sweatshirt. It's stomach-turning, the kind of visual evidence that sticks with you long after you've looked away. For years, this video was hidden, allegedly bought and buried by Diddy himself. But now it's out for the world to see, and its impact has been seismic.
There has been no profit motive involved at all. The last word is profit.
He's already rich.
So whether or not he had the freak-offs or he did whatever.
Follow the money.
Well, there is no money
Exactly.
to follow. I mean, the freak-offs aren't okay, the way in which I read it, it's not an illegal business. A freak-off is a freak, or whatever these things are, right? But the profit, that last word actually got my attention, because I was like...
Cassie, once a rising star under Diddy's record label, is no longer just a figure in the background of his glittering life. She's front and center, and she's not alone. The prosecution has lined up a roster of accusers, each with their own stories, each more unsettling than the last. Some have chosen to testify under pseudonyms, their identities shielded from the public eye, while Cassie has stepped forward unapologetically using her real name. Her testimony is expected to detail years of alleged mistreatment, painting a picture of a man who wielded his influence like a weapon. But Diddy's legal team isn't backing down. They're arguing that what happened behind closed doors was consensual, that the lifestyle he led was extravagant but not exploitative. They've even gone so far as to frame him as a swinger, claiming that his actions were part of a shared understanding among consenting adults. It's a defense strategy as bold as it is risky, especially in light of the mounting evidence against him. The prosecution, however, calls it a smokescreen, a desperate attempt to divert attention from what they describe as years of deliberate and calculated harm.
I think one thing that I haven't heard said at this table yet is bribery. So he probably promised a lot of these people either fame, fortune, riches. Whether or not he delivered, I doubt it, but that's another matter entirely, right? So that's obviously, if he incentivized some of these people in order to participate in all of these things, that wouldn't surprise me at all. well. Is that a definition, or does that fit a definition of coercion in any way, bribery?
And let's not forget the cast of characters orbiting this case. The trial has already become a veritable who's who of Hollywood and the music industry, with names like Ye, Michael B. Jordan, and Kid Cudi appearing on a list of individuals who may be mentioned in court. The mere mention of these celebrities has added another layer of intrigue, leaving everyone wondering how they fit into this tangled web. Are they witnesses, victims, or merely part of the collateral damage in Diddy's fall from grace? Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere is electric. Prospective jurors have been grilled about their knowledge of Diddy's career, their opinions on the music industry, and even their tolerance for alternative lifestyles. One potential juror admitted to liking a social media post mocking the stash of baby oil reportedly found during federal raids of Diddy's properties. Another was dismissed after revealing they had seen the 2016 video and found it damn. The selection process has been as dramatic as the case itself, with every question, every dismissal adding to the tension.
The big thing that is really interesting, and it's going to be a big problem for the defense if you look at this mock jury, the Cassie video. He is not being prosecuted for it. That's a state crime in California, and the statute of limitations is run. But I am telling you, that video was thunderous for a bunch of these jurors.
And then there's the evidence. Beyond the video, prosecutors have hinted at a treasure trove of material, including surveillance footage, witness testimony, and physical evidence collected during raids of Diddy's Los Angeles and Miami homes. Among the items reportedly seized were over 1,000 bottles of personal lubricant, a detail that has become almost symbolic of the excessive and allegedly exploitative nature of Diddy's private world. The prosecution alleges these items were used during what they've described as elaborate and degrading performances. Meanwhile, the defense is working overtime to downplay their significance, arguing that they're being sensationalized to distract from the lack of concrete proof of wrongdoing. Outside the courthouse, the scene is just as chaotic. Fans, detractors, and the simply curious have gathered, turning the trial into a media circus. Some wear puff shirts, a callback to one of Diddy's many monikers, while others hold signs demanding justice for his accusers. The lines between public opinion and legal strategy are blurring, with both sides attempting to sway the court of public opinion as much as the jury itself.
We've talked about the fact that there's sometimes videos or photos or what don't get admitted to a case because they're
overly
prejudicial.
Right. This is getting admitted. Both sides.
It's definitely getting admitted.
Both sides agree. It's going to be admissible. The defense has a hurdle to jump. I will tell you that they vote in the end, and the vote may surprise.
And yet, for all the noise and spectacle, one question looms over everything. How much of this was hidden in plain sight? Diddy's empire wasn't built in a vacuum. He was surrounded by enablers, people who benefited from his success and turned a blind eye to the rumors that have now become accusations. The trial isn't just about what Diddy did or didn't do. It's about the culture that allowed it to happen, the system that protected him, and the silence that kept so many complicit. Every day in court, new revelations emerge, each more shocking than the last. The prosecution promises to reveal footage that has never been seen before, evidence they claim will leave no doubt about the lengths Diddy went to in order to maintain control. The defense, meanwhile, is preparing to launch a counterattack, one that will challenge the credibility of the accusers and the integrity of the evidence. It's a legal chess game of the highest stakes, and the next move could change everything.
You know, there's a short life in
why do you think that is with the creative side?
Well, because losing out money, you got to take. You're going through so much to try and deal with life.
Behind the courtroom doors, the stakes couldn't be higher, and the revelations more chilling. As the prosecution and defense lock horns, the full extent of Diddy's alleged empire of control is beginning to take shape. And it's not just a story about power, but one of meticulous planning, devastating consequences, and a culture of silence that let it fester for decades. What's becoming increasingly clear is that this trial isn't just about Diddy. It's about the rot at the heart of an industry that thrives on excess, secrecy, and checked egos. The evidence being unearthed goes far beyond the freak-offs or the high-profile video footage that has already set the public ablaze. Prosecutors have quietly hinted at an arsenal of previously undisclosed recordings, documents, and testimonies that paint a picture of an operation so intricately managed it could rival the inner workings of a Fortune 500 company. They're calling it a systematic pattern of behavior designed to keep people submissive, complicit, and utterly dependent. And it wasn't just those in his personal circle who were affected. This web reached into every corner of his empire, from his record label to his clothing line and even his philanthropic ventures.
You are literally, it's an unhealthy space. And so eventually you're going to go too far, you know? Who knows what happened to Philip? Who knows what he had to do in order to get to where he was at? There's a lot of things that people do that end up sitting and they can't get over it. And they got to keep getting high, hoping to get it out of their head, you know, but when you lose your man card.
Witnesses have described in chilling detail how the lines between professional obligations and personal domination often blurred. Employees, many of whom are now coming forward under subpoena, have recounted stories of being coerced into situations they never signed up for, tasks that went far beyond their job descriptions. One former assistant, whose identity remains protected for now, described being tasked with handling sensitive cargo during late-night flights on private jets. These so-called deliveries, as the prosecution alleges, were anything but mundane. Insiders are now testifying that these were carefully orchestrated operations involving individuals who had no idea what they were walking into until it was too late. And yet, they felt powerless to refuse. What's even more haunting is the reported extent of the psychological grip Diddy allegedly held over those around him. Some witnesses have described an environment so steeped in fear and intimidation that even the smallest infractions could have catastrophic consequences. One former staff member recalled how an assistant was publicly berated and reduced to tears for failing to meet an absurdly specific demand for luxury accommodations during a last-minute flight. The lesson was clear: nothing was ever too much to ask, and failure wasn't an option. Over time, this culture of fear allegedly extended beyond staff to collaborators and acquaintances, creating what prosecutors have referred to as a climate of submission.
Card?
What is that? What do you mean by that?
You give up your ability, your right to being a man. A man don't take it, a man gives it. So when you give up that man card, you don't get that back.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
No, I'm saying what I'm saying.
Beyond the emotional toll, there are also whispers of a more calculated effort to ensure silence. Multiple sources have claimed that non-disclosure agreements were a staple of Diddy's inner circle. These airtight contracts reportedly went far beyond standard confidentiality clauses, including stipulations that barred individuals from speaking out about anything they witnessed, even years later. Some agreements allegedly included financial penalties so steep they were essentially impossible to challenge. Legal experts are now questioning whether these documents, if they exist as described, could themselves be considered evidence of an intent to conceal wrongdoing. And then there's the question of enablers, those who may not have orchestrated the alleged misconduct but played a role in keeping it hidden. Prosecutors are said to be looking closely at the roles of certain longtime associates who allegedly facilitated Diddy's demands, whether by arranging logistics, managing appearances, or ensuring no one asked too many questions. These individuals, who may have seen themselves as loyal employees or trusted confidants, are now under scrutiny for their potential complicity. Could they face legal consequences of their own? That's a question that remains unanswered, but one thing is clear: the walls are closing in on more than just Diddy.
That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Got punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man. So I believe that's a big problem with a lot of the actors out there, because they get fluid, and next thing you know, once you go fluid,
And then there's the money trail. Oh, the money. Investigators have been digging into financial records that on the surface appear to be legitimate business expenses. Lavish parties, international trips, and extravagant gifts were all meticulously accounted for. But prosecutors say these transactions tell a far darker story. Payments were allegedly funneled through shell companies, with cryptic labels like event coordination and consultation fees masking their true purpose. The paper trail, they claim, leads straight to the heart of the accusations. It's a financial labyrinth that, if proven, could show just how deeply entrenched this alleged misconduct really was. But what's truly unsettling is the way Diddy's public persona was used as both a weapon and a shield. He wasn't just a celebrity, he was a brand. A man who built his empire on the idea of aspiration. His image was polished to perfection, from his perfectly tailored suits to his curated social media presence. Fans adored him, colleagues admired him, and the media lionized him as the ultimate success story. But that image, prosecutors argue, wasn't just a facade, it was a tool. It allowed him to deflect scrutiny, to silence critics, and to maintain an aura of untouchability. And for years, it worked.
No, I get it. So you see some guys struggling with that. You see Bieber struggling with that. You see some of these guys struggling with that.
They can't get it out of their head. They can't get it out of their head.
The defense, of course, is doing everything it can to dismantle this narrative. They've brought in a parade of character witnesses, from former collaborators to industry insiders, all singing the praises of a man they describe as generous, creative, and above all, misunderstood. They're painting a picture of a flawed but ultimately good-hearted individual, someone whose larger-than-life persona has been unfairly weaponized against him. But even as these testimonies pile up, they feel increasingly hollow in the face of the mounting evidence. How do you reconcile the image of a benevolent mogul with the allegations of coercion, violence, and manipulation that have now become impossible to ignore? And let's not forget the role of those who stood by, either unwilling or unable to intervene. The industry that once celebrated Diddy is now grappling with its own complicity. How many people knew what was happening behind closed doors but chose to look the other way? How many benefited from his success while turning a blind eye to the whispers that have now become a deafening roar? The trial isn't just putting Diddy on the stand, it's putting an entire culture under the microscope.
Did you ever have the opportunity where you got invited and you said no to it?
Hell yeah.
What was the consequences when you said no?
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at it.
One of the most explosive revelations to emerge involves a series of internal emails and text messages obtained during the investigation. These communications, which are expected to be presented as evidence, allegedly show how complaints were handled, or rather, suppressed. Staff members who tried to speak up were reportedly met with threats, bribes, or outright dismissal. In one particularly damning exchange, a former employee described being warned to stay in line after raising concerns about what they had witnessed. The message was clear: loyalty was rewarded, but dissent was punished. And yet, for all the damning evidence, the defense has managed to find cracks in the prosecution's case. They've questioned the credibility of the accusers, pointing to inconsistencies in their stories and suggesting ulterior motives. They've argued that the allegations are being inflated, taken out of context, or outright fabricated. It's a bold strategy, and one that has sparked fierce debate both inside and outside the courtroom. Are these the desperate tactics of a man with no other options, or a legitimate attempt to uncover the truth?
Will you help me? I want to hear your music, so I come over there and I play the music, and he's sitting there, just looking at me, like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week, and I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to you. That's what my assistant said. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I get it. So now no more communication.
Meanwhile, the public spectacle continues to grow. Social media has become a battleground, with hashtags trending daily and debates raging in comment sections. Some are calling for Diddy to be held accountable, while others remain fiercely loyal, insisting that he's the victim of a targeted campaign. The trial has become a Rorschach test for how we view power, privilege, and accountability in the age of celebrity. It's not just about what Diddy did or didn't do. It's about what his rise and fall say about all of us. As the trial progresses, the tension only escalates. Each new revelation feels like a bombshell, each testimony a potential turning point. The courtroom has become a stage for a drama that feels almost Shakespearean in its scope, a story of ambition, betrayal, and the corrosive effects of unchecked power. And yet, for all the twists and turns, one thing remains certain. The final verdict, whatever it may be, will reverberate far beyond those four walls.
Now you know to be hands-off with somebody. A number of producers come in to make the approach, and you threaten to punch them in the mouth, or threaten to knock their head off for talking to you or looking at you like you're a woman. When you approach a real man about his masculinity, you're going to get a real reaction back. It's a difference when a guy walks in a room and when a man walks into a room. And a man don't take the same things that a guy will accept.
So what's your take on all this? Is this the long overdue reckoning of a man who flew too close to the sun? Or a cautionary tale about the dangers of trial by public opinion? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay curious. The story is far from over.